sort of conditions as we had then. Pick your pole. There's a couple of grand's worth of carbon fibre for you. Just seen some of the coaches heading out onto the track for the technical downhills. Jess Diggins, big day for her. It's a bit of a murky day here in Falun. We're used to seeing beautiful blue skies, but varied conditions. I think it's going to be quite tricky to get the wax absolutely right. And when it's like that, you see some stressed technicians going around. Tilden is Sveng there. Yeah, she's recovered. Certainly that was a boost in Drammen, getting a podium finish in the sprint behind Skistad on Skistad, of course, getting her second ever World Cup win. Very, very impressive, beating Jona Sundling, the world champion. And fairly comfortably so, it has to be said. She made it look easy. And really impressed with the intelligent racing that we saw from Skistad there on her home track. She, of course, comes from the Drammen area. Recovered. Certainly that was we won't see her today. Now, Finland, their first athlete away is Lilinpera, who goes #1. And then they've got Pipo going 13, Kilonen going 16. They've got quite a good turnout today. The Finns really hoping that Niskanen can do something, because she tops the distance World Cup standings at the moment, and again in a battle with Diggins for that trophy. Goes #1, and then they've got Pipo going 13, Kilonen going 16. They've got quite a good turnout today. The Finns really hoping that Niskanen. There's quite a breeze out there, so should you happen to luck out and join forces with someone who's just a little bit stronger than you, you can tuck in, get protection from the wind. I think that's going to make a big difference.
And today is a 10-kilometer individual start. How does that suit you?
Oh, it's a good feeling. My shape is good, and yeah, classic is not my favorite, but I think I will try to do as good as I can, and 10K suits me well.
How do you like the courses here in Falun?
Oh, I really like the course, and it's a little bit of everything, uphill, downhill, yeah, and there is a good atmosphere normally, so I'm looking forward to the race.
What is your expectations for the day?
Oh, hope to fight for top 10 and use my shape now in the end of the season, and push all that I have now the last races.
Good luck, Ragnhild.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Ragnhild Haga there, the winner of the Holmenkollen 50 last weekend. I don't know if you were watching that with Mike Dixon, Posey Musgrave. What a finish that was. 0.5 of a second separating the top 3 women at the end of that 50K, their first ever World Cup 50 in Holmenkollen. Big move, and I hope, like many of the athletes, that it remains a 50. That is a true test of stamina. 30K nowadays, taking them, what, an hour 15, an hour 20. I think you have to be going around that 2-hour mark before you really feel the difference, before the genuine distance athletes come into their own. And what a finish it was. Haga getting the win over Schlind, who thought she'd won. Schlind thought she had it with just 2 meters to go. Can you believe that? She was really disappointed. You saw her body language. And then Jess Diggins getting 3rd. That was a bit of a blow for Diggins. A win would have obviously given her an extra 10 points in the World Cup, but that would have made a huge difference. She did sweep up masses of bonus points. And that was one of the main features, that Oslo 50, bonus points on every lap. Just Diggins getting a total of 87. Tilde Nisveng losing out just a little bit on that front, but still notching up 130 points in total. Well, there you see the air temperature just at it's just at the impossible level. Some parts of the course it's freezing, others it's 1 degree, and the lowest part of the course just down below the freezing point. So difficult waxing conditions. I think there'll be a lot of hairy skis out there today, or rubbed skis as the Scandinavians call them. So 3 loops, a 2.5, a 3.75, followed by another 3.75 to make up the 10K. And there's a lot of climbing to be done. Total of 300 and, what is it, the total climb 379 meters. Just trying to think of a hill that's that sort of size, a little bit bigger. I don't know anyone knows the west coast of Scotland. Ben Laura, that's just over the 350 meter mark. That involved, and a 10k race as well. It's pretty steep. World Championships, yeah, they were going up around the 2,000 meter mark on the longer distance races. Nothing quite compared to the Barkley Marathons, which have just completed. Need to have a good look at those results. I think 3 people finishing this year, which is the first time anyone's finished since 2017. What an extraordinary race. So all the way down to number 51. So it's going to take 25 plus minutes to get them all out on the tracks. And then 10k race, well, we're looking at around 22 to 23 minutes. Last year, or the last time they raced here, was freestyle actually over 10k distance race. Guess who won? Therese Johaug, 22:34. She's of course retired. Jonas Sundling was the big surprise last year, the Swedish sprinter, the world champion, the Olympic champion over the sprint distance, and brilliant second last year to push Jess Diggins down into 3 and Palmer Koski in 4. So it was pretty much the great of the last 5 years of women's cross-country skiing. Johaug, Sundling, Diggins, Palmer Koski, and then Heidi Weng in the top 5 as well. Ebba Anderson just behind her. It really was a top-tier finish for the top 7 or 8. Early start for Sophie Krell, and yeah, she's having her best season, up in top 40 of the World Cup standings. Calver there, wearing bib 25. Both of her best results have come in the 10-kilometer classic, so keep an eye out for her. It's the tall figure of Katri Lilimpera who is going to get us underway. Niskanen starts 31, Nissinen starts number 38. Lilimpera from Vuokatti, which is, as we've mentioned many times, where they have one of the indoor ski tunnels, and it certainly seems to be benefiting the current crop of Finnish athletes. So welcome to Farnham. We're still waiting for the women's 10k to get underway. The men racing a little bit later on this afternoon. They start at 2:45 local time, and they're racing same course, same distance, as has been the way in all the World Cups this season. Going to be really interested to hear what the conclusion is at the end of the year. As a commentator, it's quite nice because you get to see the same course twice, so you know it that much better. And the difference between the time out there, in fact, you know, you could, one side of the argument is that the women are out on the tracks longer than the men, generally between 12 and 15% slower over the same sort of distance, but that doesn't compare to cutting the distance in half. So instead of a 10, well, in fact, the men would probably do a 15 would be equivalent, in which case the men are out on the snow that much longer. Marta Rosenberg from Sweden. What do we got? 10, 11 Swedes taking part in today's. Rosenberg only 20. We saw in the Tour de Ski, had a pretty good finish there in the top 31. I think she was 31st. But this is her first ever World Cup in Sweden, slightly surprisingly. Normally, they get to run their own World Cup quite a long time before they join the World Cup team. Now, Germany's Sophie Krell, having her best season, as I said, comes from Rettenberg, which is the sort of northeast of Liechtenstein, quite close to Oberstdorf, really. I guess she does most of her training on the World Championship courses in Oberstdorf. Laura Gimler, also from Germany. That's Moa Lundgren, had quite a good race in the sprints in Drammen, just missed out on the final, finished 7th overall. Mandelj for Slovenia, and saw her in the World Championships. He entered the 10 free. The 10 kilometre in the Worlds was a freestyle race, and I think that probably suits her better. She finished in the top 30 there. A top 30 today would be pretty good result, but we've only got 51 starters, remember, so those athletes that generally finish 30 should be aiming for top 20. Marsic for Poland, national champion over 15K. Freestyle, we'll see how she gets on. Did 4 races at the World Championships this year. And the Americans, well, I think they've had a pretty good season. They've got 2 in the top 10 in the sprints. They've got 2 athletes in the top 4 of the overall, 2 athletes in the top 4 of the distance standings, and some younger athletes coming through as well, which is so important. Diggins can't keep going forever. And Rosie Brennan, you know, Rosie Brennan gets overlooked far too much. She's an absolutely brilliant athlete, top 5 of the World Cup standings. Ducourdeau of France, heading off her first season on the World Cup tour. I've been pretty impressed with what she's done. And as a youngster, to finish 18th in the 50K in Oslo, she was what, just over 2:15 behind the winner, Ragnhild Haga. Haga, of course, who won the 15K, I think I'm right, was it the 10K in Pyeongchang back in 2018? So came home with a gold medal from those Olympics. And of course, Haga saying that the 50 in Oslo was probably an even better result for her. What a sprint finish it was. And she had practiced that time and time again. Jona Sundling just warming out. Now remember, 2nd place in the freestyle here last year, 2nd place in the sprint in Drammen, so Sundling having a pretty good finish after being out for so long. She has recovered very well. Krell up to the 1.5, Rosenberg setting a time of 3:48, which is very quick. I wonder whether she's gone off a little bit too hard. Evelina Pipo just starting for Finland, so that's 13 underway. Flora Dolci of France is next to go. This is Lundgren coming up towards the 1.5. Quite a steep climb. This is part of the sprint course as well. Just a reminder, we got a 2.5 followed by 2 different 3.75s. They both take in the what's called the murder backen, or what I guess we'd translate that as killer hill, and it does that to a few athletes. It's a brutally long climb. Interested to see how Andrew Young gets on with that later on today. Andy Musgrave racing as well. He's in a bid to finish in the top 10 of the distance World Cup standings for the first time in his career. And he's, by all accounts, having his best ever season after a brilliant start.
Olympic medals don't get won by chance. They're hard-earned, dedicating every move, every breath, every jump to achieving the goal. Olympians don't rely on luck. When the moment comes, they're prepared to perform. Exactly like Bridgestone. Worldwide Olympic partner.
FISU, World of University Sport.
Cavendish now launches. Cavendish going. Cavendish in front. On the right as we look at it, Gavinia. On the right, Gavinia, but Cavendish is still in front. Cavendish is going. Bauhaus is coming to the left. The line won't get there. Cavendish still there. Cavendish still there. Oh, it's number 16.
The Cross Country World Cup, presented by La Gruyère AOP, the taste of Switzerland since 1115.
Welcome back to Falun. Jonas Sundling of Sweden just starting. She's going to get a good response as she makes her way around this course. I think the weather conditions keeping the crowd numbers down substantially. But I think this is going to turn into a cracking race with 51 starters in all. Most of the seeds going off between 18 down to 39. Well, actually, let's go to 43. Certainly Claudel. Ted Dawson goes 45. We've got the under-23 World Cup leader Iduka going 47. So actually pretty much to the back end of the field, but the winner likely to come between 18 and 50. It's not unusual for an early starter to surprise us, especially with these conditions. If the temperature changes just a bit and if the snow gets heavier, those with the later start are really going to struggle. Now, Ragnhild Haga, the winner of the Oslo 50. What a feather to have in your cap. The first ever Holmenkollen 50 for women, and she won it in the most dramatic of sprint finishes, coming in half a second ahead of Jess Diggins, who was third. It was Schlind, the long-distance specialist, who just lost out. Now, Pipo up to 1.5. Rosenberg still leading with that 3:48. Rosenberg, an early starter. She's only 20. I suspect she's gone a little bit too hard, but we'll find out as the race goes on. That's an awkward section. Now, there may be a few yellow cards handed out for skating on this course. I'm not sure you can skate your way around an uphill corner on a classic race. Downhill, I don't have any issue with that whatsoever. Ellen Lee racing for Australia. Good to see. The Kangaroo Loppet, probably the most famous race in Australia. Never been there, never done it. Certainly New Zealand has some good cross-country tracks. I don't know if you know the Snow Farm up above Wairau, just outside Wanaka. Beautiful part of this world, and quite a few of the athletes heading there in the summer months just to get extra time on snow. Victoria Carl. Has it been a quiet season for her? Well, she's sort of 15th in the distance World Cup standings. I think after a gold medal in Beijing last year, maybe we were expecting a little bit more from Victoria Carl, but her career's got some way to run, and maybe next year we'll see her getting up towards the podium places. Kaloinen goes through, gets the red light, so Rosenberg still leading, and we'll just track her when she comes round again. Rosenberg leading at 1.5 and 2.5 at the moment. As far as the starters go, Calver is going to be next, and then Heidi Weng goes off 27. Interested to see how Heidi Weng is getting on at the moment. Pulled out of the World Championships, just wasn't feeling good at all. Now Sundling coming up towards 1.5. Is she going to match her teammate Marta Rosenberg? I think she's going to be comfortably inside. So the light is going green for the first time in 9 minutes. and a decent margin as well. 10.7 inside. That's a fantastic start from Jonas Sundling, and getting a little bit of support from the locals here in Falun. Lundgren Wikström for Sweden, under 23 athlete, comes from Mora, which is the end of the Vasaloppet. The Vasa, what was it, won in just over 3.5 hours, 92k, averaging 27 kilometers an hour for that amount of time. Absolutely staggering achievement. Heidi Weng with 105 podiums from those 271 starts. It's been an incredible career for Heidi Weng, the number one in 2017 and 2018. She was number 2 in the world in 2020. So Heidi Weng underway. Tiril Ludnes Weng is the next of the Norwegians to go. Second cousins, I think they are. Always gets a bit complicated once you get to second, third cousins. But we've had plenty of races with 3 Wengs racing. Lotte Udnes Weng, I think, is not racing today. Just double check the start sheet. No, she's not in. It's been disappointing for her since the early part of the season. She was going so well. Bagan of Norway up to 21, up to the 1.5, and that's not bad. 4th place. That stunning time by Sundling, making everyone else look a little bit slow. Yeah, Bagan looks full of running. No need to tell you who that is. And she will certainly be a challenger today. Although were it freestyle, I'd say she was the favourite. Hallqvist now for Sweden, starting just 30 seconds. Tiril Ludnes Weng is underway already. Niskanen is next to go. Now this is a big day for Niskanen. Let me just explain the standings. She leads the Distance World Cup standings. We've only got today and one other race to go. That will be in Lahti, a mass start, again in classic style. Niskanen's favoured technique, classic. Neither of these venues are high enough for her. She likes it when it's over 1,000 metres. But if Niskanen can beat Diggins, Diggins is only 7 points behind in the Distance World Cup standings. Tiril Ludnes Weng at 133. I think she's out of that particular battle. So Niskanen underway, the number 1 in the world in the distance races this season. And that is as aggressive a start as I've seen from Niskanen for a long time. Diggins will have to match it. The zip undone, trying to keep the body temperature down. It doesn't look particularly warm out there, but racing at 1 degree for these athletes is uncomfortably warm. Just seen further north in Scandinavia, the temperature is down at -11 at the moment. So Calva is going to be a good 15 seconds or so off the pace of the leader Sundling, which is still going to be good enough for 3 or 4. 14.4, and equal 4th with her teammate Bagan, who started pretty well. Now Rosie Brennan, 3 top 6 results in the World Championships. Really unlucky not to come away with any medals for her efforts there, but that so often is the story. She's 4th in the overall, she's 4th in the Distance World Cup rankings. Brennan, a couple of good races at the end of the year. Can she get into the top 3 in the distance? She's a long way. She's 90 points or so behind Tiril Ludnes Weng. So I think that is unlikely. In terms of the overall, she's 130 points behind Niskanen. So I think 4th is as good as she's going to do. Now, Heidi Weng. This looks like a top 3 position. Wouldn't be too concerned with Rosenberg, but I did say we often get surprised by some of the early starters. Those club skiers, call them club skiers, they're class skiers, but they haven't quite made the national team. Jess Diggins has certainly achieved that, and big race for her today. The overall is still within her grasp. The Distance World Cup is within her grasp as well. Usberg, if she skis as quick as she signed her name, she is going to be in a good position today. She starts number 41, Usberg. Tilde Nisveng. How has she started? Well, she's not going to match Sundling. I don't think she'll be so concerned. Sundling is good over 10K. We've seen that. And as I mentioned, she was second in this particular race, although it was freestyle last year. But Rosenberg's time of 3:48 is not quite matched, but 12.7, good enough. The Norwegian's massing in 3:45 at the moment. Niskanen started 31, a minute behind Tilde Nisveng. Oh, the snow is getting heavier, and, well, how's that going to affect? You certainly wouldn't want to be last off in these conditions. You wouldn't want to be first either. And with 3 different loops, I haven't seen 3 different sets of fall alphas, which means the last lot of tracks are going to be full up with snow, which is bad news for all those who start early on. Now, Niskanen looking for a top 3. She's certainly going to achieve that. She'll be inside Rosenberg's time. That's a really positive start. So Sundling leads, Niskanen 2, Rosenberg still there in 3rd, and Diggins will be the, she's got another about 1:45 to go through that checkpoint at 1.5 if she wants to match Niskanen. Hennig, another good season for Katarina Hennig. She's only 26. She's only done the Drammen Sprint since the World Championship, and she got knocked out in the qualifying, so somewhat under-raced over the last 2 weeks. Lead us through 6.3, and Rosenberg still the quickest there with a time of 17:01, just ahead of Moa Lundgren. Sophie Kröll, who started 3 in 3rd position at the moment. Sundling coming up to 4.3, having taken the lead away from Rosenberg at 2.5 by a decent margin, actually 20 seconds. So that assessment of Rosenberg's start time, I think, is accurate. Now, can Sundling keep this going? She leads at 2.5, ahead of Heidi Weng. Big margin of 17 seconds. Powerful athlete. The section she's not really going to enjoy, well, this is the top of Mörderbacken. They've already been climbing for a long, long way to this stage. 15 seconds ahead at 4.3. She was 19 clear, so yes, Sundling losing a bit of time on that big climb. I think we'd expect that. She'll certainly pick it up on the downhill and the flat. Jess Diggins is going to be 8-9 seconds, just a little bit, 9.9. That will do nicely, 3rd place, but crucially tucked in behind Niskanen, and a little stumble there as the wax gripping. Now that would suggest to me that Jess Diggins is on Clister. Delphine Claudel, one of the best climbers in the book, and we saw her win the last stage of the Tour de Ski, the Alpe d'Huez climb. Is this course hard enough? With 379 vertical meters of climbing, I'm not sure it is. I'm not sure it is for Claudel to come through and win it, but I think it's hard enough for her to get a top 10. Hagström in her club colours, starting just ahead of Ter Dawson. Ter Dawson much improved this year from 40th to 14th. If she keeps that going, we're going to be seeing a lot of her next year. 16th in Beiderstolen, that was one of the early, or the first 10-kilometre time trial. Well, although actually the second race of the year was also a 10K time trial. That was in Ruka, so we had 3 races in Ruka, and yeah, the Swedes were on very, very good form, the Andersons and the Carlsons. And yeah, big blow for the Swedes that their 2 top athletes out of action at the moment. They would have been bitterly disappointed to miss the Holmenkollen 50. Didn't feature, wouldn't expect to see Anderson and Carlsen feature in the sprint at Drammen, but they would certainly have wanted to be racing here in Falun. But you know, when the athlete's ill, you have absolutely no choice but to keep them off the racetrack. Ajduka for Latvia, leader of the under-23 Crystal Globe chase, and I think that is going to her this season. She's got a lead of 346 points, 5 races, so potentially 500 points in the offing, but a good result today. And if she beats Bagan, who we saw earlier on, Bagan actually racing really well, but if she beats Bagan, gets a few more points advantage, it is game over as far as that Crystal Globe is concerned. And Kirsty Calver, really smooth, nice long glide. It's quite a steep section, but she's still getting good use out of the skis, which would suggest to me that she's got some very, very well-prepared skis under her feet. Calver in 7th place at 2.5. She's going to go into 2nd here behind Sundling. Just looking where she was relative to Sundling last time we saw her, she was 17.5, so she's gained a good 10 seconds on that climb. Sundling, I think, is, I hesitate to say she started too fast, but I think what we'll find is that she loses on the uphills, gains on the flats and the downhills. Calvin nearly lost a lot. Little stumble. Heidi Weng. Now, this is more like the Heidi Weng. I think she looks in much better shape than we've seen previously this season. She's had desperately bad luck when it's come to the major championships. Pyeongchang, she was off form. Beijing, nothing happened. Had to pull out of the World Championships this year. The body just wasn't responding to the pre-championship racing. I think that was probably a good decision. But if she's going to continue, then a couple of good results would certainly be welcome at this stage. And what's she going to be? Sort of 15, maybe a little more than that. 16.5 for Heidi Weng, 4th place at the moment. She was 16.5 last time we saw her, so pretty much keeping match with the race leader. Well, this is looking very easy. Long stride from Tiril Udnisveng. Couple of little slips. Not sure who she was getting splits off. Tiril Udnis, 6th place last time we saw her at 16.5. So the light goes red. She's still got some way to go. Really, it is about holding her own up against Jess Diggins. And Diggins is in 3rd place at 1.5. Won't be long before Diggins comes up to this point. She's got... she started number 35, so we've got 3 minutes or so before the top American comes through. Look at the rotation of the hips of Niskanen. Not always coached, but it does give you that extra couple of inches of glide on each step. Sort of think I'm a fan of a really firm core, bit more solid body position. But provided you can keep the tempo going and you can generate the power with the kick, who matters? And Niskanen has done just that. She has gained bucket loads of time on the climb, and she gets the green light She was 6.8 behind Sundling at the bottom of the hill. She's now 3 ahead, so a 10-second gain for Niskanen on the climb. But remember, this is very, very early days. They're on the first of two 3.75-kilometre loops. Yeah, Niskanen is hungry for that crystal globe. No globes in 15 years of competing at the top level. Rosie Brennan, is it going to be her day? Brennan, 4th place going through the 2.5 split. She was 13 seconds down on Jonas Sundling. I think she could cut that to roughly 5. No, it's going to be somewhere similar. Not sure she's going to have gained places at all for Brennan. Closer to 15 than to 5. 13.6, and down in 4th place, just behind Calver, who's worked well on the that first climb. Calver was a long way down, 17.5, so she's gained good ground on the climb. Now, Jess Diggins, things certainly going okay in the early stages. She was just a couple of seconds down on Niskanen. She's got the advantage of knowing exactly what she's got to do. She's already gone past Louise Lindström, a local skier in the Swedish team, just behind her now. 30 seconds they started apart. Lindström showing good strength to look up. Most people looking firstly 10 meters ahead. Then it's the ski tips that come into focus, and when you can see your toes and you're focused on your toes, you know you've got to straighten the body up a little bit. So Diggins up towards 4.3. Remember, it's only a 10k race, so there's really no opportunity. You can't afford to give away more than 10 seconds at any stage of the race. And Diggins goes through 10.9, just ahead of Rosie Brennan. Calver exactly the same time as Diggins. Well, it was an early start for Rosenberg, and she's been the pace setter all the way through. Calver leading at 6.3. Sundling, the top athlete, at 1.5. We saw that a little bit earlier on. And Sophie Krell has gone past Rosenberg, who definitely started too fast. But you live and learn. She's a young athlete, and I think Rosenberg could be a name to watch out for next year.
FISU, World of University Sport.
Look out. Take in all the wonders nature has to offer. Fly. Here you can feel light. You can feel free. Discover. Here winter is full of warmth. Chatting with friends. The soft silence of relaxation. Enjoy. You're in Trentino.
Oddio! L'uomo d'acciaio a terra!
Just looking at 6.3, Niskanen has gone into the lead at 6.3, ahead of Calver. Sundling pushed down into 3, Truludne Sveng in 4, Heidi Weng in 5. Began, the youngster in the Norwegian team, second in the under-23 rankings, is 6. And here she is. Just over 2 kilometers to go. Still looks pretty fresh. Impressed with her climbing. All about maintaining tempo at this stage. temptation to do so much work with the arms, but if you do that, you find you get less traction between the ski and the snow, and then you get virtually nothing out of the legs at all. But Bergan, a totally different tempo to the two athletes in front, and she is closing fast on the opposition. This is a really, really impressive run from her. Started 30 seconds behind Ragnhild Haga, so that's a brilliant, brilliant performance for Margarita Bergan. I think Haga's going to get a little bit of a shock. No doubt, still has that 50k in the legs. McCabe of USA coming into the finish. This is going to be a good lead for her. That's an outstanding performance. Comes from Winthrop in Washington. And 13.5 inside. Great work. Great work. An indication that the USA are still on the up. It is not just about Jess Diggins. Plenty of talent in the lower ranks in the American team as well. Razimova for the Czech Republic. Saw her in the World Championships. Raced the 30 down in Planica. Got a good top 21. Made the top 15 in the 20-kilometer classic in Les Russes earlier this season, and the 31-year-old gets the green light. So McCabe's lead is short-lived. The times are getting dramatically faster, and I think the early starters drew a very, very short straw indeed, because the snow really started 10 minutes into the race, and they have been effectively fall-outing or snow ploughing their way around the course. The track's getting faster and faster as we go. Sundling sets the new fast time at 9.1. The crowd see that on the big screen. This is the finish of the sprint course. Sundling knows it better than most, better than anyone perhaps as an out-and-out sprinter, but doing really well in today's 10K. Pipo started 13. She's going to be some 13 seconds off the lead. Razimova of Czech Republic still number one. Kalva and Niskanen having a good battle on the way round. They're only 10 seconds or so apart. Niskanen of Finland with the advantage. We're waiting for her to go through 7.7. Well, she gets plenty of splits. Plenty of splits. The one I picked up 8 seconds down on Sundling. I think that will put a bit of fire in the belly of Heidi Weng. We'll see how correct they are. Sundling at 6.5, so it should be something like 14 seconds back for Heidi Weng. I think she might have lost a second or two since she passed her coach. She has, or either that or Sundling was flying up this bit of the climb. Lots of slipping coming from Heidi Weng. Yeah, that right leg seems to be just a little bit light on the wax. This is the back straight for Jona Sundling now. You can see the glaze conditions in the tracks. I think the long downhill in towards the finish, that's where a lot of the athletes have made up time. And Rosenberg, who started early, on a different day, I think would have had a very, very different result. That's a bit unlucky, but that's part of cross-country skiing. And the coaches don't get a huge say in where the athletes go. So round the final turn, and about 150 meters from here, Razimova of the Czech Republic has had a good 5 minutes or so in the leader's chair. She'll be quite glad to get out and get some warm clothes on as Sundling comes in, the athlete in white, second place in that drive for the line. She's going to be at least 10 seconds inside, a bit more than that, 12.9 the margin, and a new target time here in Farnham. 27.44, great run. Now back out on the tracks, Niskanen. Oh, that lead is extending. She had 7.9 advantage. In fact, over Kalva, she was 13 clear at 6.3, and Niskanen now 19.8 clear, so still pulling away from Kalva of Norway, and that is bad news, especially for Jess Diggins, who is desperate to get ahead of Niskanen. Those two just 7 points separated in the Distance World Cup. That's after 15 races with just 2 to go. Diggins really cannot afford a margin of 10, 20 points to open up. Well, this is a good run from Calver. Well, the wax certainly working at this stage for her. I wonder whether she's a bit too grippy and struggling on the downhill sections. We'll see as she comes down into the finish. So Calver leading at 9.1 at the moment, and she has got an 11-second advantage over the current leader, Jonas Sundling. Rosie Brennan up towards 7.7. Brennan in 5th at 6.3. Diggins has dropped back a little bit. Actually, Brennan and Diggins just 0.2 of a second apart at the previous split. So be interesting to see what Jess Diggins has done this time round. 28 seconds the deficit for Rosie Brennan of USA. Began at Norway. This is a good run. Now, if she can take a bucket of points off Iduka, maybe she does have a chance in the under-23 World Cup rankings. That's a good slot for now. 3rd place. Well, she is pushed to the limit, so we know what she is capable of, and I think she'll be delighted to have caught the winner of the Holmenkollen 50. Now, Diggins, as I mentioned, was pretty much level with Rosie Brennan at 6.3. Looks to me as if she's just dropped back a bit. She's got 10 seconds to get inside Brennan's time. It's a steep climb here. Progress isn't quick over the last 20 meters or so. Still not too much between the two Americans. It's gone from 0.2 to 0.9. What's that? 1.1, isn't it? Between Brennan and Diggins now. But Diggins is a really good sprinter, so she should, if she gets splits on Brennan, should be able to pull that back in the closing stages. Well, how about this from Ann-Kirsti Calver? Fantastic run from her. 2 podiums this year, one in Oberstdorf, one in Beiderstolen, both over the 10-kilometer classic. So maybe she's hoping to do it again. Certainly that looks good. And the new target time, 27:30. Calver in 2nd place at 7.7. She was in 3rd at 6.3. She has the lead at 9.1, but that's not going to last long because Niskanen is on the charge. 22.6. I don't think there's much doubt where the gold medal is going today. Niskanen of Finland is going to take this. This is one of the best runs we've seen from her so far this season. And if she picks up the full quota of 100 points, Jess Diggins at the moment is down in 5th. That will be a 20-point gain for Niskanen in the Distance World Cup. Well, we also got to keep an eye on Tiril Udnes Veng. She is going for the overall now. I thought Tiril Udnes might be a match for Jess Diggins at 6.3. They were just 8 seconds apart. Tiril Udnes Veng is in 7th at 7.7. So the damage is going to be limited, but Jess Diggins will narrow the gap in the overall. The gap in the distance standings is going to widen. 3 sprints still to go. At the moment, Feindrich is the leader in the Sprint World Cup standings. So Heidi Veng across the line, only 22 outside. That's not a bad comeback. I think she'll be, well, she expects podiums. An athlete who's got 105 podiums in her career. I wonder how much longer she will keep going. Well, I think Niskanen will keep going for a while if the results keep coming like this. This has been an absolutely outstanding performance from her. 4 wins in her career, and 3 of those coming from resorts over 1,000 meters. So to be putting in a blinding run here in Falun is great news. And I tell you what, the Finnish fans who are watching either here or on the TV will be absolutely delighted, because that's where we go next week. We've got a classic mass start, 20k, and Niskanen might fancy her chances in that, although generally she's one of those athletes that does better in the time trials. Well, look at that margin. 100 meters to go, 35 seconds in hand. The lead is going to be somewhere around the 23-24 second mark for Niskanen. Just 10 meters to go, and she wraps up a victory here in Falun, the 5th of her career, and that is a very, very convincing run indeed. 27.08 the lead time. Now, Diggins trying to do something in the last kilometre and a half. She goes into third for now, Sundling at 34. So Brennan is now some 7 seconds down. So Diggins has come to life in the last couple of kilometres. I suspected it might happen, and that is absolutely crucial because she's not going to catch Niskanen. There is a chance she could catch Calver. It's got to be an unbelievable finish. But Diggins is a good sprinter, as I said. She's got the little climb here, then it breaks to the left and back down into the stadium. It's pretty much easy running from the top of this climb. If she can gain 10 seconds on Calver here, second place is there for the taking, and that would limit the damage, and it would mean that Niskanen and Diggins were 12 points apart going into the last distance race of the season. And that's a mass start, and Diggins will not let Niskanen get away in a hurry, so it's going to be a cracking finish to the Distance World Cup. Rosie Brennan had the advantage over her teammate for 80% of this race. The tide turned at 8K. She looks right at the end of her tether. I think she's probably going to lose a little bit more time. What was the margin between them last time we saw? 7.1 seconds. Diggins still out on the course. She's just entering the stadium for her last 600 meters or so. And Brennan, does she stay in top 4? She does. Pushes Heidi Weng down a 5. We haven't seen that much of Tiroludnis Weng on the way round. She started number 29. Just give you her position in the finish. She's in 7th at the moment. Well, this is going to be absolutely key. 7th picks up 72 points. If Jess Diggins can get into the top 2, she'll get 95. That will push Tiroludnis Weng down into 8th. So there's going to be a 25-point swing in favour of Jess Diggins today, which will take the margin back to something like 120 points in the World Cup. So she's not going to get second. Calver stays second. Diggins goes into third, still holding off Jonas Sundling. That was a good fight from Diggins over the last 2,000 metres or so. So 90 points gained by her. She gets a 21-point advantage over Tiroludnis Weng. So that takes us back to around 125 points. We'll wait for confirmation of that. Tiroludnis Weng. So that takes us back to around 125 points. We'll wait for confirmation of that. Well, here's your winner. Niskanen of Finland does it for only the 5th time in her career. And when you see the ability she's got, it's a wonder that it is only 5 times. I think had we had more classic time trials, then she would have notched up a few more victories. Well, she'll certainly not celebrate too long here in Falun. She will set her mind on that final 20K of the season. The margin now 17 points by my reckoning in the Distance World Cup. The advantage to Niskanen. There is a chance that Diggins is going to finish second in the overall, second in the distance. Katarina Hennig. Well, here's a surprise. She's been going along nicely, just picking the pace up over the last 3K. She's got herself into second place at 7.7, hanging on to second at 9.1, and she's got a 3 or 4 second advantage over Calver as she comes down the home straight. Katarina Hennig with another podium finish here. The German who really put in some fine performances in the Tour de Ski doesn't get her second ever win, but she does get back on the podium, and that is a fantastic run, taking full advantage of both her start position behind all the favourites and, of course, the slightly faster snow conditions. And even though the snow continues to fall, I think having more athletes in front of you pressing the tracks down has made a big difference on the downhill sections. There have been some really dramatic swings so far today. Well done to Katarina Hennig. starting 39. Usberg